When you combine Mark Giordano's injury with John Klingberg's bad hip and Timothy Liljegren's lower body issues, the Leafs have now lost 3 of their top 6 D. So now what? To discuss that, Bryan Hayes in studio and Jamie Noodles McLennan joins us from his home office. Guys, this team's D needed help when all 6 were healthy. So now on a scale of 1 to 10, how desperately does Brad Treliving now need to make a deal to bring in some help on the blue line? Jamie?
Let's call it a 12 because he even admitted a couple days ago he was always in the market to upgrade that D. So if you're looking at it, the injury to Liljegren, you pointed out lower body injury, that was significant because he's missing significant time. Liljegren was a third pairing defenseman to start off with. Now Klingberg, offseason signing, didn't hit the ground running, but you could see that there was flashes of the old John Klingberg from Dallas in there. But he's injured. Now there's lingering issues, and now a 40-year-old in Mark Giordano, who's been a third pairing guy, who's moved up into your second pairing, he's now banged up. They needed to upgrade that defense anyway. So the concern was there with these guys healthy. Now it's massively concerning because they're not healthy and the depth is certainly being challenged.
Yeah, if you're going with the 12 noodles, I'll go over the top and say infinity on this list right now. It is absolutely mandatory the Leafs bring something in. And you mentioned Mark Giordano and his age, right? We all have a ton of time and respect for Mark Giordano. He is a battler. This will crush him being out of the lineup. But at his age, with where he is in his career, even when he recovers from injury, you might have to be concerned that he takes a bit of a step back. Timothy Liljegren, like you mentioned, is a third-pairing guy. This is not just about surviving the next month. Whatever move you're going to make here, you're thinking about building towards the playoffs and trying to go on a Stanley Cup run. And it was absolutely a priority prior to these injuries. Now it's pushing it to levels of infinity. It has to happen. The Leafs have got to acquire at least one piece, maybe more than that.
The way to go right off the scale. Okay, so we all agree it's unanimous. They needed upgrades. The Flames have 3 guys available on expiring deals. Dregs tells us the Flyers have a couple of D-men that are available as well. If you are the Leafs GM and infinity's your target, who's your number 1 trade target out there, Hazer?
I'm going Chris Tanev. I'm circling the wagons in Calgary because, again, it's not only about the next month. You're talking about building a program here that is hopefully going to go on a long playoff run. I think Chris Tanev
Speaking of guys who aren't healthy right now.
Yeah, Tanev does have injury issues, and there is some irony there that you're trying to replace injury issues with a guy that does have injury issues. But he's back on the ice today, and again, he's a legit top 4 guy that can play against high-end competition. I like Noah Hanifin, but I prefer what Tanev brings. Zadorov's a third-pairing guy. You're going to get that when Giordano returns, when Liljegren returns. I think if you're going to go in on this deal, try to get a legit top 4 guy. That's Chris Tanev.
I love Chris Tanev as well. The guy took a puck to the chin, and he's back skating. That's how tough he is. He is a guy who's desirable, but I'm going to go off the grid. I'm going with a guy named Brett Pesce. I'm going to Carolina and saying, you guys got a lot of defensemen there, and he's on a contract that is expiring. He needs one next season, and he's a top pairing guy. If not, he's a 3 or 4 at max. He's that good of a defenseman, and that's what Brad Treliving, the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, needs to be shooting for, is a guy who can play top pairing minutes, that can move the puck and get that talented forward group the puck in stride, speed through the neutral zone. He can play in all situations. He's got some bite. Yes, it's going to cost you a lot of money moving forward, but cost control this season, I'm not sure that Carolina is going to part with him, but I would be sniffing around the Carolina situation based on their depth. They've got a very deep defensive core there. They're going to have to do something on the back end. It's Brett Pesce for me.
But you got to be willing to pay. We know you have to give up something good to get something worthwhile in return. What would you be willing to give up? Picks, prospects, or players with talent on this Leafs current roster, Noodles?
I think it has to be picks and prospects. I mean, you're not going to offer them Liljegren, Giordano, and Klingberg. It's going to have to be something else. You have to be all in right now. This is the wheelhouse for Austin Matthews, for Mitch Marner. William Nylander's on an expiring contract. John Tavares is not getting younger. This group has to be all in right now based on the way it's constructed. And you can't be pulling players off of their roster. They don't have enough players up front that you could be firing out there in a trade. So for me, it has to be picks and prospects, and whatever that takes to get that player into your lineup, you make it work. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I think what you're driving at here, Gino, is that they were desperate maybe a week or two ago. Now they're really desperate.
Infinity desperate.
Infinity desperate, which means the vultures will be out. So whatever you thought the price was going to be for a Tanev, for a Pesce, whoever, I think you have to be willing to go a little bit further than that, but not crazy. But maybe you take a page out of Cliff Fletcher. Maybe you make this a bigger deal. I mean, I mentioned Tanev and the Flames. Maybe we go old school here, and if you're going to throw in a Nick Robertson, then all of a sudden it becomes more than just one defenseman. Maybe Zadorov's included. Maybe it is a Hanifin scenario. If Calgary's looking to sell, then I would assume there'd be some forwards that would probably be available as well. If the Flames are moving in that direction, we know they're in one spot, the Maple Leafs are in another. It doesn't have to be 1-for-1 or picks and prospects for one defenseman. If need be, get creative. Brad Treliving's well aware of what they have out there. I could see them going down that road.
And what they need. Getting back to Brett Pesce, he carries a cap hit of just over $4 million. He also has got a 15-team no-trade clause, so that could complicate issues.